the law? Because there are laws already on syndicated estafa for those working in companies that have trust and confidence. Tapos kinuha nila yung pera. Syndicated estafa, I think, is non-bailable.
Yes.
And there's also the law on plunder, which is also non-bailable if they steal over 50 million pesos. So I'm not sure if we're going to, putting this in this law, will it amend the other penal provisions of the penal code? I'm not a lawyer.
Yes,
Secretary.
Your Honor, that we're of the opinion, there are existing laws that apply to these instances, so we
Yeah.
deny we do not accept.
Yeah, I'm just worried. Because whenever we raise this issue, Tito Frank, who I love very dearly, who was a minority floor leader, would always point out to me when we increase the penalties in certain laws that there are already laws in place for that particular penalty. So I'm just worried na if we impose different punishments and penalties, we might be amending it might be either excessive, too excessive, and we may be amending existing penal provisions. So my appeal to the lady senator, maybe, I don't know, putting a certain section on embezzlement. Although I understand their point. Absolutely.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, good sponsor. In response to the first question of the good Senate President, no, it was not the intent with this proposed amendment to amend the revised penal code. This is a special law, and also I would like to cite the existing section 50 on other violations, separate liability, that liability for any of the foregoing offenses shall be separate from any other administrative, civil, or criminal liability under other laws.
Okay.
But I think, unfortunately, the sponsor declined the
Yes,
additional section.
yes, Mr. President, and I accept the declining by the good sponsor.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
President and good sponsor.
But we appreciate the effort of the good minority floor leader, deputy minority floor leader. Yes, please proceed.
Mr. Honor, so now we add a new section under Article 12 on miscellaneous provisions will be inserted, which shall read, Section blank Statutory Council, the Office of the Government or.
Which line is this, sir? Which section and which line?
Amendment, old Article 12 on miscellaneous provisions, which is add a new section under Article 12 on miscellaneous provisions.
So we go back to section 12?
Yeah, Article 12.
Article 12.
This is in,
Page 21.
Yeah.
Sorry, so we're in page 21.
yes.
So we are in page 21. There are no ulterior amendments before that.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I do have an anterior amendment.
Okay, please proceed.
Good sponsor, I have an amendment to section 50 regarding other violations and separate liabilities. On page 20, line 32, after the phrase offenses shall be separate from, add the phrase comma, and in addition to. And on the same page, line 33, after the sentence ending in other laws, remove the period and add this sentence that would read, comma, such as, but not limited to, the provisions of the Revised Penal Code, Plunder Act, Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, Anti-Money Laundering Act, Revised Corporation Code, among others, so that the new provision would then read, other violations, separate liability. Liability for any of the foregoing offenses shall be separate from and in addition to any other administrative, civil, or criminal liability under other laws, such as, but not limited to, the provisions of the Revised Penal Code, Plunder Act, Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, Anti-Money Laundering Act, Revised Corporation Code, among others. I so move, Mr. President.
Yes, I accept, Your Honor.
Thank you, good sponsor, Mr.
Accepted.
President. And lastly, Mr. President,
Can you help me?
additionally, I propose a new section 52 on the prescription of crimes before the current provision on prescription of offenses. On page 21, line 34, I move to add a new section that would read, prescription of crimes. The crimes punishable under this act shall prescribe in 20 years. However, the right of the state to recover properties unlawfully acquired by the person involved, nominees, or transferees in embezzlement and misappropriation of the funds shall not be barred by prescription, laches, or estoppel, and renumber the sections accordingly. I so move, Mr. President.
I propose an amendment to the amendment of 10 years instead of the 20.
The reason, good sponsor, Mr. President, that I propose the amendment of 20 years is because that is the similar um, uh, jail term in the I'm sorry, what? Goodness, I'm so sorry. Good sponsor, Mr. President. It's the same period of prescription under the anti-agricultural smuggling law. For economic sabotage, Mr. President. So, and crimes under or in violation of this bill, the law on the MIC would not be less than that. Good sponsor, Mr. President.
Well, based on our discussions, the legal, they're saying that 10 years is the maximum, so we reject.
So the compromise, if you may, is 10 years.
Yes.
See, with the sponsor of the amendment, agree to a compromise of 10 years?
Just with a final note, a good sponsor, Mr. President, that the prescription period for plunder is also 20 years, like my original amendment. However, could that be a final convincing argument to the good sponsor? Otherwise, I must accept his rejection, declining. Just that appeal, good sponsor. If the crime of plunder
We are
prescribes as well in 20 years.
we are firm on 10 years.
Maybe know why. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, good sponsor.
So 10 years. May I just point out to the good sponsor that section 51 of appropriations
Yes.
is actually in Article 11 of offenses and penalties. So would you want to remove that from Article 11? Was that a mistake? Was a harmless mistake?
I know.
I just saw that it says
It's
appropriation.
renumbered subject to style.
So subject to style.
Yes.
So we will remove it. Well,
Renumber this.
the idea is to remove it from offenses and penalties and transpose it to possibly Article 12, which is miscellaneous provision.
Yes, yes.
Okay, subject to style.
Thank you.
Yes, Senator Grace.
Mr. President, just an interior amendment. On line 33, section 50.
Are you ready? Yeah. Can we add?
Can we add the following? Such as, but not limited to,
Section, which section?
Section.
section 50.
50, we'll go back to 50. Okay.
Yeah, 50, interior amendment. Can we add more laws to the list? So, Republic Act number 6713, or the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees. And Presidential Decree number 46, series of 1972. Executive Order 292, or the Administrative Code of 1987, Republic Act number 9184, or the Government Procurement Act, Republic Act number 386, or the Civil Code of the Philippines as amended. I so move, Mr. President.
Yes, I accept.
On page
Accepted.
20,
Just point of information, directed to the proponent.
What was PD 46? The others, I heard you mention what those laws were, but what was PD 46?
Presidential Decree number 46 series of 1972, to be exact, is making it punishable for public officials and employees to receive and for private persons to give gifts on any occasion, including Christmas.
Isn't that already amended? Is that the Graft and Corrupt Practices Act? Just check, no?
part of
Because
the-
some of them might already be amending older, kasi PD so it just struck my attention na baka lumang ano na yan.
Yeah, I think the correct provision, the correct law is now the Anti-Graft
Yeah,
and Corrupt Practices Act, which amended that PD.
yeah, that's what I thought, Your Honor.
Yes.
Well, I will yield to
Yeah,
the
subject
wisdom.
to style,
Yeah,
subject
to style, Your Honor.
I will yield to the wisdom of the body.
subject to
Subject
style.
style, Your Honor.
Kasi mabuhay kung binalik yun tapos na-repeal na.
Yes. They're intently listening, the lawyers, all these lawyers in front, so.
Much
subject to style.
much appreciated for enlightening this proponent. On page 20, on line 31, before section 50 on separate liability, insert 3 new sections to read as follows. Section 50, preventive suspension. Any public officer against whom any criminal prosecution under a valid information under this act in whatever stage of execution and mode of participation is pending in court shall be suspended from office. Should he be convicted by final judgment, he shall lose all retirement or gratuity benefits under any law. I so move. Too harsh?
Sorry, Your Honor, could you just repeat what was the status of his crime or his conviction? What was it?
Any public officer against whom any criminal prosecution under a valid information under this act in whatever stage of execution and mode of participation is pending in court.
Okay, so
shall
there
be
is an
suspended.
information filed. Your Honor, if I may, can we align that because there was a pending provision similar which was subject to style, so it just has to be aligned. I think the Senate President instructed
Yes. Subject to style.
yeah, to align it with the provisions of law that are in the provisions that are in our current laws. So just that they should be aligned with it.
And I think, Your Honor, these are covered under existing civil service laws. I think, you know,
Yeah, I think
there's already a provision here that says, you know,
Doble.
there is civil service laws on that already,
So-
and rules and regulations. I'm worried we might not be able to hire anybody if we show them all these penal provisions right away.
there's a lot of, there's already
Secretary
existing.
Jokos nodding his head there.
Either
He
Senate,
might not want to be appointed there anymore.
either Senate. There. Maybe for the. Yeah, just a proposal, section 51, liability of directors, trustees, officers, or other employees. If the offender under section 47 of this act is a corporation, the penalty may, at the discretion of the court, be imposed upon such corporation and or upon its directors, trustees, stockholders, members, officers, or employees who are willfully or knowingly responsible for the violation. This is just reiterating what is already probably out there.
Maybe you can read all 3 and then approach,
Yeah.
we can suspend for 1 minute so that you can approach the sponsor with the written, what you're reading now, and so that we can study it with the team, with
And
the.
so lastly, Mr. President, liability of aiders and abettors and other secondary liability. Anyone who shall aid, abet, counsel, command, induce, or cause any violation of act shall be punished with a fine not exceeding that imposed of the principal offenders at the discretion of the court after taking into account their participation in the offense. I so move. So
So,
maybe we.
session suspended for 1 minute so you can approach the bench of Senator Villar. Subject is sulat mo kagad.
Mr. President, I think the spirit of what the senator is trying to express is we're just really reiterating and reinforcing the existence of these laws and that they apply to Maharlika. So perhaps we can just, subject to style, include.
No, because we have, actually, there was a section, section 50, we already named so many laws,
Yes.
including civil service, such as not limited to several laws.
Yes.
So kasama na yun, if
Okay.
you ask me.
So I guess, I hope, is that enough for the,
Yes, Mr. President, the purpose also of this is for the record, so
Yes.
that we can always refer to this discussion, to this debate, in case there is confusion with regards to the interpretation of this law.
Yes.
So let it just be on the record that we are making it clear that
Yes.
they are subject to already existing laws.
Correct.
That's all,
I
Mr.
agree.
President.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now,
Mr. President, I have an amendment in section 48.
Oh, what the amendment? Okay. So 48.
Yes, Your Honor, this is page 20, line 22. There's an enumeration, directors, officers, or employees, delete the word "or," and after employee, agent or representative. And the reason for that is just to be consistent with the previous paragraph that refers to agent or representatives, because it could be an agent or a representative engaging in this graft and corrupt practices, which a director and officer should now be duty bound to also report or sanction.
yes, I accept.
Thank you,
Accepted.
Your Honor.
So
Okay.
there's more amendments for page 20,
Yes,
except that we are moving the section 51 to the
yes, I
proper.
had I think I had a motion for Article 12 to add a new section under Article 12 on miscellaneous provisions will be inserted, which I'll read. Section Statutory Council. The Office of the Government Corporate Counsel is the statutory counsel of the MIC and shall handle its legal affairs. Subsequent sections shall be renumbered accordingly. I so move.
That is section 50, that will become section.
A new section under Article 12, Your Honor. And I said
That will be the
subsequent.
beginning of the article? Because
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
That'll be the beginning of the article.
Yes, and subsequent sections shall be renumbered accordingly. I so move.
There be no objection, amendments approved.
On page 22, line 3, remove the word "the" before RA 11232.
It's not here.
There be no objection,
On page 22, line 4, insert the phrase after the word Philippines to the extent relevant and remove the phrase which are not in before the word consistent.
there are no objections. Amendments approved.
As proposed by Senator Legarda on page 22, insert a new section to read as follows. The MIC shall exist for a term of 35 years from the date of the effectivity of this act unless sooner repealed or extended by Congress. The succeeding provisions shall be renumbered accordingly. I so move, Your Honor.
There be no objection, amendments approved.
And the Secretariat may do editorial changes subject to style, Your Honor. I so move.
There being no objection, the motion is approved.
Mr. President.
Yes, ma'am, before I congratulate everyone.
Yes, before. Mr. President, I have an amendment just for clarity. This was on our previous discussion regarding the compensation and bonuses. If His Honor will recall, there was a proposal to delete section 30 on rewards and incentives, but
We
then
returned
it was decided that we
to
keep
keep
it.
yes.
But Your Honor, after that, after we decided to keep it, we amended section 21 on page 12, and it's a little bit confusing if you try to reconcile. So my suggestion would be to revert to deleting the entire section 30, because if you read section 21, it refers to all the compensation and bonuses to be determined by the board consistent with GOCC Governance Act. And then for the technical positions, the board will also make that determination. So the bonuses for the staff that His Honor was concerned about, that's already covered. To retain section 30 might be confusing, Your Honor.
So we'll just go back to the original motion of the
Yes.
proponent, which is basically to
Delete
delete section 30 and 31.
Is that okay?
Yes, I accept.
Thank you. And then, Your Honor, go ahead.
Accepted.
And then,
Please take note, we're moving very fast, so the
Yes, I know.
secretary has to take note.
so section 30 is deleted, and
And
then,
31, right?
no, just section 30. And then in section 21, we have a reference to section 30. So we just have to delete that
Ma'am,
because
we
it
have
no longer exists.
Article 6, which is rewards, incentives, and termination, are two sections. So if we remove, we'll have to delete the entire Article 6. Yes, because Article 6 is rewards, incentives, termination. So we'll end up deleting section 30 and 31.
I leave it to the discretion
That
of
was
the
the
sponsor.
original motion of the sponsor, to delete the whole Article 6.
Oh, I have no comment there, Your Honor.
Yes. So we will delete the whole Article 6, Your Honor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
It's
And renumbered accordingly. Sir, it's accepted.
Okay. And then, Your Honor, as I was saying, in section 21, for consistency, there is a reference to the performance bonus authorized under section 30. So delete that. So because there is no more section 30.
Yes.
Yes, there's no more section 30 and 31.
Yes, so that there's a line that makes reference to section 30. So we have to delete that line in section 21. That is the amendment, Your Honor.
Yes, that is a styling amendment. We just asked the secretary
Thank you.
to remove that, and it's duly noted by the secretary. On, just to be clear as well to our proponent, on page 22, you inserted a new section, but it has no title. On page 22, you said the MIC shall exist for a term of 35 years from the date of effectivity of the act unless sooner repealed or extended by Congress. But it has no, you did not give a title to the corporate term. Shall we call it the corporate term?
Term of the MIC. Corporate term of the MIC, Your Honor.
Corporate term of the MIC. That will be section 53. And then all the other sections renumbered accordingly. Okay? So is that it? Ladies and gentlemen? Malapit na. Yes, sir. In Filipino. Senator Robin Hood Padilla.
Ginoong Pangulo, huli na po ito. Pasensya na po kayo. Sa pahina 22, ika-19 na linya, seksyon 77, amyendahan ang naturang seksyon upang maging, sa English po, Mr. President, on page 22, line 19, section 57, amend the entire section to read as follows. Section 57, effectivity. This act shall take effect immediately upon its publication in the official gazette or in a newspaper of general circulation in the Philippines 60 days after the effectivity of this act. Its Filipino translation shall be published in the official gazette or in a newspaper of general circulation in the Philippines. Tinatanggap po ba ng ating magiting at magandang lalaking sponsor?
Siyempre po, tinatanggap ko po.
Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
can it be English or Filipino? Baka we have to be clear with that.
Yeah, I have.
Meron lang pong translation po. Galing po sa English. Kasi English po ito eh.
Opo.
Ita-translate lang po natin to, Ginoong Pangulo, sa Tagalog,
So,
sa Pilipino.
kasi mas mahal yan Kasi mag-print tayo sa newspaper, dalawang version.
Opo.
English and
And-
Filipino.
Opo.
Opo. So, Ma'am Pia, may comment po kayo, Madam?
No, there will be confusion, Your Honor, because the wording of section 57 is it shall take effect immediately. So immediately ba o 60 days? And then to be clear, there is already a 90-day period for the implementing rule. So I think our normal process is, we say it takes effect immediately, wala na hong 60 days.
O parang wala na 60
Oo,
days?
wala na yon. And then we do the rules right away, or actually the rules are done simultaneously, Your
Yes.
Honor.
So
That is
tanggalin
the
na natin
practice.
yung amendment niyo po, tanggalin na natin yung 60 days. Which shall take effect immediately. So, ang importante lang dyan ay pag-publish sa newspaper, meron pong Tagalog version. Tama ba?
Mahalaga po yung Tagalog version.
Opo.
Opo.
Sige.
Ano po ba? Tatanggapin niyo po ba?
Yes. Yes.
Hindi naman po ako ang
Tatanggap ko
sponsor.
po.
Hindi po ako ang magsasabi.
Opo, ang sagot.
Yes. Opo. Tinatanggap ko po. Ang inyong
Tinanggap na po ang inyong
Mr. President,
Amendment.
before that, may I just clarify, Mr. President, ha?
Ano
Iba
nga?
po ang Pilipino at Tagalog.
yes, Filipino.
Filipino is Tagalog-based, but ang Tagalog is not completely Filipino. So we'll publish it in English and Filipino, not Tagalog.
Maulagi. Bisaya, wala? Peter. Bisaya.
Mr. President, there,
Yes, Senator Jingo.
my amendment to the amendment was not officially acted upon, just for clarity.
Yes, we removed the word 60 days and acted upon immediately.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mahal na
Yes,
Pangulo,
yes.
ibig po sabihin sabay na. Sabay.
Opo,
Sabay na po. Pagka pinapublish po ito, sabay na po yung English at Tagalog.
opo.
Okay, salamat po.
Senator
The expert.
Jingoy Estrada is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not wish to make any amendments anymore because of the lateness of the hour. And I would like to say that I am happy because Senator Risa, who is a member of the minority, had made a lot of amendments to improve this bill and has been accepted mostly by the sponsor. Maybe we can convince her to vote for this bill, Mr. President.
You don't have to answer, ma'am, if you don't want to. Senator Risa is recognized.
Well, Mr. President, just again to say that, well, maybe I should just quote the good sponsor na libre namang mangarap. At ako naman ay nakikiisa doon sa libreng mangarap sa iba't ibang paraan. But also to say, Mr. President, that I had been given to understand earlier that we would be voting this on second reading tomorrow.
No,
And
it's
because, well, just to complete what I had been given to understand earlier, Mr. President, because a clean copy would be generated. And also because I was looking forward to the minority leader being able to participate in the vote on second reading. Anyway, the bill is certified as urgent and we could approve it on second and third reading tomorrow to allow him to participate and also manifest his vote, Mr. President.
Unfortunately, my dear colleague, there's already a time for a bicameral conference committee tomorrow at 11 o'clock. The House already elected its members, and they're just waiting for the bicameral conference committee to be constituted by the Senate.
Thank you.
And I don't think these people will be here if the voting was tomorrow. It would probably just have been me, Senator Joel, and you left in the.
For the record, Mr. President, we were here at 2:30 in the morning yesterday.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'd like to put this on record.
Mr. President,
We have the form that we are passing now, I think satisfies our thirst for transparency and accountability on this measure. I think the number of amendments that we placed here will assure the Filipino people that this fund will be used properly, efficiently, and effectively. So, we like to ask the majority floor leader.
yes,
what is
Mr.
the-
President. Mr. President, with no other individual amendments, I move to close the period of individual amendments. I so move, Mr. President.
There be no more amendments. Period of amendments is closed.
Mr.
There be no
President,
objection.
Mr. President, with the consent of the body, I move that we approve on second reading Senate Bill number 2020, subject to style. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion is approved. Second reading approval of the measure.
Mr. President, the Deputy Minority Leader is seeking the floor. Move that she be
Yes,
recognized.
our Deputy Minority Floor Leader is recognized.
Salamat kaayo, Mr. President and Majority Leader. Just a short explanation of my vote, Mr. President, and hoping that if the Minority Leader wishes also to make his manifestation tomorrow, there will, of course, be time for him. First of all, I want to thank the sponsor. Thank you, Senator Mark, for accepting some or a good number of my amendments that say that the corporation shall admit into its ranks only those persons unblemished by any hint of corruption, and also that stiff penalties await if corrupt acts are ever perpetrated. Nagagalak po ako, Mr. President, na hindi natin pinayagan na itaya ang pera ng SSS, GSIS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, OWA at PIVAW dito sa Maharlika Fund. Sigurado at maaasahan po ang mga pondong iyon at para yun sa seguridad ng ating mga kababayan. Sabi nga nila, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. I think we were wise to sense the uncertainties of the times and to act on that intuition. So again, congratulations to everyone. I also want to thank the sponsor and Senator Angara. Thank you for ensuring that there would be a 25% limit to the investable funds of DBP and the Land Bank that would be exposed to the operations of the Maharlika Fund. And I thank Senator Gatchalian for consistently going against the grain in his effort to protect the financial strength of our Bangko Sentral. But in the end, we still have this Maharlika Fund into which scarce public resources will be poured. And of course, I will not enumerate here again the multiple crises that cry urgently for resources. I want to reiterate, however, that I fully agree with the sponsor's belief that a new kind of public financing is needed. We need to learn how to leverage the capital resources that we have so that we could do more with the little that we have. My belief is that the idea of a sovereign wealth fund will make sense sometime in the medium term, perhaps when we have the surpluses. It's ahead of its time, so to speak. But at this time, I think that what we need is to capitalize our GOCCs so that they can venture where the private sector hesitates to go, into utility scale batteries, cold storage for fish and vegetables, PUV modernization, Mr. President. But it is not, to my mind, a Maharlika Fund that is fit for this purpose. These challenges require the sub-sector specific knowledge of risks, opportunities, and regulatory challenges that our GOCCs possess. At a later time, years from now, after the GOCCs have soaked up the little capital that we have and solved the problems that are most real to Filipinos, it is at that point, I think, that the capabilities of a sovereign wealth fund would have come into consideration. At that point, the wealth of publicly funded innovations and businesses already earning their keep can be handed over to the private sector through the financial facilitation of a Maharlika Fund, so that a new round of public investments by our GOCCs and their venture partners can then begin again. For these reasons, I vote no. Maraming salamat po. Daghang salamat, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, our dear Deputy Minority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, at this juncture, this being a certified measure, Mr. President, I would like to request the Secretary to read the letter of certification from President Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr.
Yes, with no objections, I ask the Secretary to read the letter certifying the measure.
Malacañang Palace, Manila, 22 May 2023. Senator Juan Miguel F. Zubiri, Senate President, the Philippine Senate, Pasay City. Mr. Senate President, pursuant to the provisions of Article 6, Section 26, Paragraph 2 of the 1987 Constitution, I hereby certify to the necessity of the immediate enactment of Senate Bill number 2020, an act establishing the Maharlika Investment Fund, providing for the management, investment, and use of the proceeds of the fund and for other purposes. With the downgrade of the global growth projection this year on account of debilitating inflation, fluctuating and unstable prices of crude oil and other fuels due to the protracted conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and continuing interest rate hikes in the international financial sector, there is a compelling need for a sustainable national investment fund as a new growth catalyst to accelerate the implementation of strategic and high-impact large infrastructure projects that will stimulate economic activity and development. Best regards, very truly yours, the President of the Republic of the Philippines.
Mr. President, thank you. And with the consent of the body, I move to consider on third reading Senate Bill number 2020. I so move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion of the majority floor leader, we now instruct the secretary to please read the title of the measure and proceed with the third reading. Roll call vote.
An act establishing the Maharlika Investment Fund, providing for the management, investment, and use of the proceeds of the fund and for other purposes. Roll call vote. The Honorable Senator Angara, Senator Binay, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia,
Yes.
Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go,
Senator Go. Ah, yes.
Senator Ontiveros, Senator Lapid, Senator Legarda, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pimentel, Senator Poe, Senator Revilla, Senator Tolentino, Senator Tulfo, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Cynthia, Senator Villar Mark, the Senate President.
Yes. With, ladies and gentlemen, at 2:32 a.m. in the morning, we have 19 affirmative votes, 1 negative vote, 1 abstention. Senate Bill number 2020 is approved on third reading. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr.
Can
President.
we suspend for 1 minute so that we may approach?
Yes, Mr. President, but before that, may we put on record, Mr. President, a lot of our colleagues would want to submit their explanation of votes, Mr. President.
Yes.
And we'll do that, Mr. President.
Yeah, we'll accept their explanation of votes.
We'll
in
accept
writing.
their explanation of vote.
I will
Also,
suspend
Mr.
to be able
President.
to come up with the list.
Yes,
for-
Mr. President. Also, Senator Robin Hood Padilla would like to be made co-author of this particular measure, Senate Bill number 2020. Will it be put on record, Mr.
We
President?
put that on record. Session suspended for 1
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President.
I already said.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move that we proceed to the Senate President's designation of Senate conferees to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill number 2020 and House Bill number 6608, entitled Maharlika Investment Fund Act of 2023. I so move, Mr. President.
The following members are hereby designated the Senate conferees to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of Senate Bill number 2020 and House Bill number 6608. They are the chairperson, Senator Mark Villar, and to be joined by Senator Pia Cayetano, Senator Bato de la Rosa, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Senator Francis Tolentino, Senator Alan Cayetano, and Senator Coco Pimentel on the part of the minority. So designated.
Mr. President, it's actually supposed to be Senator Pia Cayetano.
No, they also asked Alan to join.
Okay. Okay, Mr. President.
Yes.
With that, Mr. President, I move that we adjourn the session until 4 o'clock in the afternoon of Wednesday, May 31, 2023. I so move, Mr. President.
Before acting on that motion, I would like to thank the economic team for their patience. Ma'am Leah, Secretary Jokno, Secretary Mina, Secretary Balisacan, Secretary Pascual was here, Secretary Governor Felipe Medalla was here, SEC Chairperson was here as well, our Chairperson is here as well, and to all the members, ES Executive Secretary, and the Special Assistant to the President,
Secretary Dong Mendoza, Mr.
and
President.
of course, the provider of pizza pie, donuts, fried chicken, and French fries, Secretary Dong Mendoza, our PLLO Secretary. So with that, the motion is to adjourn. And of course, my goodness, how can I forget? The Secretariat, our staff. Palapakan po natin ang staff. Secretariat for the hard work that they've done. Pasensya na lang po, minsan ay minit ang ulo, but you guys did the job very, very well done with your job. So, we adjourn. There be good job. Hindi job, good job, sabi ko. There being no objection, the session is adjourned until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Wednesday, May 31, 2023. Today.